here locally in the community. Make sure y'all go check out Kneecap Body by Jeremy Campbell.
Good evening and welcome to the NFL Roundtable Talks here on our channel. I've got Von Doom as usual with every nighttime show. We've got Dustin in the house. He follows Alabama sports and also the Commanders. Is that correct, Dustin?
Yes. Yeah, that is
Okay.
correct.
And of course, we got Patriots media coming in saying, "Happy birthday, Julian Edelman." He had to give props to Daddy. We call him Jordan Edelman every time. And James Burgess comes in and says, "Every day on the Serengeti, the sun rises and the lion knows he has to be faster than the slowest wildebeest, or he's going to starve." Oh, James, that's funny. But we got OTAs going on, and Justin's got a lot of news to talk about with the Commanders and also about other things that we're going to talk about. Leonard's going to give us some Giants news from his camp. And of course, Jordan's going to talk about the New England Patriots and what he's heard out of OTAs and how Drake May's looking and if it looks like Bailey Zappi might start over him. Just play it. You know, I got to throw that in there.
Maybe Joe Milton.
Oh, there we go. And James Burgess finishes it. And every day on the Serengeti Plains, a wildebeest wakes up knowing he has to be faster than the fastest lion or he's dinner. Moral here, when the sun rises, you damn well better be running. Oh, it's good to see you guys here. I know Ricky Scott's going to pop in here because I already talked to him in the chat earlier on Messenger. But so Dustin, let's let you have the floor here and go ahead and talk about what's going on with the Commanders camp so far.
So it looks like Jaden Daniels has been impressing so far with his ability to put some zip on the ball and to be pretty accurate. Offensive line seems to like him quite a bit. Receivers have been building chemistry, and it looks like he has quite a bit of confidence going into OTAs and into training camp. It seems to be kind of a fresh start for the Commanders. I mean, we've kind of had a cloud over us in the Dan Snyder era of Redskins / Commanders time. So with a new beginning, we need a new quarterback. It's not exactly what I would have wanted, but that's why they get paid the big bucks and I watch on Sundays.
We've kind of said the same thing here, but Von Doom, what have you heard with the Giants lately?
With the Giants lately? That ESPN's got Daniel Jones ranked as the number 29 quarterback in the NFL, which I think that's an insult to whoever the three behind him are. Other news, we had Malik Neighbors. Theon Johnson signed his contract today. Malik Neighbors seems to be the only guy that Daniel Jones is building a rapport with so far in the first 2 days of OTAs. Drew Lock, right now, looking like he is going to be our starter. From everything we're seeing, he's connecting with all different receivers, spreading the ball out. He's not turning it over like Jones did. And we're seeing multiple touchdowns to our rookies from him.
And that's with the second string O-line, right?
Yes, that's with the second string O-line, not even our revamped one. And Brian Burns looks like a goddamn supervillain wearing that number 0, and I love it.
All right. And we got Jordan Edelman, Julian's kid, in here saying happy birthday to Dad. And how's everything going with Patriots camp?
Well, there's a lot actually going on. Obviously, we got a new coach. There's been a lot of changes actually. The report has been, the people are over reporting that Bailey Zappi's taking like second string snaps. But if you look at every position, like every position, the veterans were ahead of the rookies in every single position. Left tackle, they had the guy they brought in from Pittsburgh. I can't say his name. It's like Chukafora or something. He's a left tackle, a veteran. They brought him in. He's not even projected to be our starting left tackle. Cato Wallace is who we drafted in the third round, and he's been starting over him in practice. So at every position, our rookie wide receivers weren't the first guys out there either. So everybody's like overreacting that Bailey Zappi's took more snaps in the first OTA practice than Drake May. But I don't think it means much. Gerard Mayo also said during the interview that they were only going to keep 3 quarterbacks going into training camp. And that means that they're not going to cut Jacoby Brissett because he's the veteran. And then obviously you're not cutting the third overall pick in Drake May. So are you cutting Joe Milton this early, or are you cutting Bailey Zappi? And I think it's Zappi that's going to be the one cut out the door. And then defensively, this is where they made the most change really outside of coaching staff. Obviously, they brought a lot of the coaching staff back. But the Patriots are actually switching, it looks like, to a 4-3 now. Instead of a 3-4, they've ran a 3-4 for like the last 12 years. And it looks like Mayo and the defense is switching to a 4-3. One of our slot cornerbacks, Marcus Jones, has been practicing at free safety, who we drafted in the third round 2 years ago in 2022. He's been practicing at free safety for the Patriots because they don't really have a true free safety. Their safeties on their roster right now are currently like a bunch of 6th-round pick guys from a couple years ago, and then they got Kyle Duggar and Jarrell Peppers, who are more the in-box safety guys. So that's really the biggest news going on around the team right now.
Fantastic. Thanks for
I
the
love
update.
Jarrell Peppers.
But
I do too.
we got Megan, Aussie 12 Gawkroger, our Australian Seahawks fan in the chat. Good to see you. And of course, we got the normal greetings going back and forth between James Burgess and Dad and Megan.
Ooh, I got a question over there.
Yes, you do.
Will they
Will they seriously
Daniel
sit
Jones?
Daniel Jones?
I truly believe they will, because when they signed Drew Lock, they flat out told him he will have the chance to compete for the starting job. We all know Daniel Jones is gone after this season unless he wins a Super Bowl. But with his injury history, letting him on that field and him potentially having a career-ending neck injury again puts him on the hook for the full guarantee of it. I truly feel we don't see him on the field at all this year.
Let me ask you a question. Did you see Chris Sims' top 40 quarterbacks that he's named so far?
I saw some of it. I saw where they said Jones is like 29 on the list.
Well, he's done his 40 through 26 so far, and Daniel Jones is not on his 40 through 26. So he either doesn't have Daniel Jones as a top 40 quarterback, or he's in the top 25.
If he's in the top 25, Chris Sims has been smoking crack.
But he also hasn't put Sam Howell. All the guys he put on there so far is backup quarterbacks from last year, or he's put like the rookies from like this year, like Michael Penix. And the only other quarterback that I think that was actual starter last year for some time that made the list is Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, I believe. Everybody else's backups are rookies from this year.
All right. Thank you there. Well, I have heard out of Minnesota camp that J.J. McCarthy is struggling and coaching is disappointed in his play so far. Imagine that. Something I said would probably happen. The reason why he was hit at Michigan through those last 3 games when Harbaugh wasn't there. And you can say what you want, but Harbaugh is the better quarterback coach than Sherrone Moore is. JB Von Doom, people I've never seen before. How's your even? You've seen Jordan. He's just a little more clean cut than usual.
Is the report said he's been more horrendous than Sam Darnold?
Yes.
Wow. So Sam Darnold might start the year then.
Well, remember, Sam Darnold just learned the Shanahan system last year.
Yeah,
2
with
years
the
ago
49ers.
with the
49ers, yeah.
remember there was that one point where he actually started a couple games.
Hmm.
It's easy
Kyle
when you just have to
Then
run the ball.
Kyle Drasser comes in and says, shaking my head, Daniel Jones gets slandered too much after taking them to the playoffs the year prior. Can't fault him when he has a bad line and the front office prefers to take receivers over improving the line.
Can I address this?
Sure, let me put you up here.
You'll never ever hear me say I hate Daniel Jones. I love the guy. I want him to succeed. I don't want him to be a cripple the rest of his life. He's got a weak neck. It has been hurt on him twice now. And yes, they didn't address the offensive line. They didn't address the offensive line realistically since 2010. So we had all that years of crap offensive line play. We were the worst in the league last year. Let up like 85 sacks. Only one behind us even close was Washington. And you can't expect the guy to succeed in that. Jones did take the team to the playoffs. He 100% overachieved that year. Not him, but the team.
Hey, Von Doom,
Yo,
you are getting a little bit of that static in the background again.
I don't know.
All right.
But anyway, yeah, he took him to the playoffs, and I applaud him for that. But as a person that doesn't want to see somebody end up crippled, somebody that's had neck injuries in his life, I honestly want him to just sit the bench, collect his money, and then go enjoy the rest of his life somewhere.
All right. Now I want to talk about what's been happening with the Lions. It looks like everybody who can play has showed up to camp, and they got ahead of a situation that we see with a lot of teams going on. T. Higgins hasn't signed his franchise tender, so he can't show up at Bengals camp till he either signs it or they work out an extension. Justin Jefferson isn't showing up at the Minnesota camp, which that can't be helping the development of a rookie quarterback or a veteran quarterback of working with him. Say what you want, but it looks like to me that Jefferson isn't quite the route runner that a lot of wide receivers are. He's a really good deep threat. He has great hands and he will out jump you for the ball 100%. But it is what it is. He's not that great of a route runner, which is why somebody like Jeff Okuda with a little bit of safety help shut him down last year in the early game or 2 years ago in that early game. At the same time, I also heard good things about Hendon Hooker, that his footwork looks amazing. It looks like his knee is no problem whatsoever. He was connecting with every fast wide receiver on the field at day 2 of OTAs. Uh, Jared Goff is having a good camp, connecting with everybody in his normal check down security blanket guys he's always connected to. But at the same time, he needs to open up. Big Dan Davis says J.J. McCarthy should have never been a first round pick. He's going to need a year or two to develop. The offense he ran at Michigan, those 2 years were primarily run space. Needs better decision making and pocket awareness. And I agree. I've said the same thing about him. He needed to go to that better situation for himself. But at the same time, Broderick Martin slimmed down and yoked out. He looks like he's been working out. Aiden Hutchinson gained another 7 pounds of muscle mass. He's all yoked. Malcolm Rodriguez at 5'11" is coming in at 235 and another 5 pounds of muscle mass on him. Derek Barnes looks good despite his injury in the NFC Championship game. He's been playing more at the Sam linebacker position, which is where he should have been playing his entire career. So maybe AG learned something from when Dan Campbell gave him a hand in making the Lions defense more aggressive at the end of the season last year. It's looking good. So far, I've heard good things about Betts and Mitchell Agood. Davenport struggled a couple times in uh, uh, Davenport's been looking bad in the run defensive part of the OTAs, uh, which is something that we knew happens because he tends to over pursue, like a lot of pure pass rushers do in the NFL. They over pursue in the run game and get burnt on a double move in the backfield. We see it all the time. Guys that are great pass rushers and just can't defend the run. But Dustin, you want to tell me a little bit, since you follow Alabama so close and tell me about Terrion Arnold.
So we're kind of looking almost like you guys are becoming the Detroit Tide at this point, with all the players that you bring in from Alabama. But specifically, when it comes to Terrion Arnold, first of all, we have to look at him being a true
Uh-oh. Did we lose him?
that he was
No.
outshadowed in the very beginning by on the defense.
You
Am I
dropped
frozen
out.
here?
Yeah, you froze
You
for
were for a
second.
second.
There. You're fine now. Uh-oh.
Oh,
Eagles are Georgia. Motown is Roll Tide. Oh, he bounced out for a minute. But yes, he's kind of was telling us what we saw in the game film already, and he was overshadowed by the hype of Kool-Aid McKinstry. And I think a lot of it had to do with Kool-Aid's name, just being called Kool-Aid. It was a fun one, especially for Lions fans. Here he comes.
I'm not sure what happened. It cut me out there.
Yep, I'm bringing you back up top. Okay, so you were talking about Terrion,
Perfect.
how he was overshadowed by Kool-Aid.
Yeah, in the very beginning of last year, he was being overshadowed by Kool-Aid. I mean, it was kind of hard not to when Kool-Aid was one of the best corners in all of college football. So being on the other side, I think that really benefited Terrion because he was getting more of the targets because people weren't going to be targeting Kool-Aid. He really became a true leader of that defense. He became part of Lank with Jalen Milroe. That kind of took college football by storm. Let a naysayer know. Kind of took the storm of college football last year. It was Pat McAfee talked about it on his show and on College Game Day quite a bit. He and Jalen Milroe put that together for NIL purposes through Yay Alabama, the main contributor to NIL. Few things about him. He's a very good press corner. He does struggle a little bit if he doesn't get the hands on the receiver first. When receivers tend to run those diamond patterns off the line, he can get beat. He can get grabby off the line. But he is somebody that's played a lot of different positions in the defense. He's lined up at safety. He's lined up in the box. He's lined up in corner. He's also lined up in the slot as well. He's a very good tackler in space. He's somebody who, if he's able to rush the quarterback like he has, he's somebody that you're sure is going to make a tackle. He gets through blocks with tight ends, and even with some of the smaller offensive linemen, he was able to get off some blocks. He had 13 pass breakups last year and 5 interceptions. He was very, very productive, and I think truly, I think part of that is, like I said, because he benefited from having a true island like Kool-Aid McKinstry on the other side.
Right. I'm going to address the chat for a second. Let me get
Sure.
back up the screen. We got Yoli Cruz coming in, and Kyle Drasher says the real question is what flavor Kool-Aid. Seeing how he went to the Saints, I think it's flavored with aspartame, and it's going to have a bitter aftertaste. And I think it's more of the lemon lime Weilers version instead of actual Kool-Aid.
hey, the Saints are good at getting corners, though. I'll give them that.
Yeah, I
They
know.
got
I just had to
Alante.
do shit.
Yeah, I mean they got Marshall Lattimore and Alante Taylor. I don't think even Kool-Aid's going to play this year much.
And James Burgess says Kyle Drescher's Sharkleberry Finn because it's blue. And Yoli Cruz comes in. She's a Packers fan saying hello, everyone. Good to see you, Yoli. I'm glad you're watching. If you have anything to add about OTAs from the Packers into the chat that you've heard coming out of camp, go right ahead because we will report it for you. That's no problem.
We don't care about the Packers. Fuck the
Ah,
Packers.
man. God damn it. God, I was going there, man.
Hey,
Hey,
this is the
Dustin.
NFL Roundtable Talks. I try to keep the crap talking to a little bit of a minimum until it's time to talk
Man.
about our sponsors, including our best fake one that everybody loves so much.
Yes, exactly. Hey, Dustin, let me ask you, who do you think's a better pure corner? Terry and Arnold or Kool-Aid and Kinstry?
Well, that's kind of a tricky question, because if you're talking about true pure corner, I would probably say Kool-Aid McKinstry. If you're talking about who can have a bigger impact holistically in a defense, I would say Terrion Arnold. Because Terrion Arnold has more versatility. Like I said, he's played safety, he's played in the box, he's played corner, he's played slot, he's a nickel. He can play everywhere. He's a better tackler than Kool-Aid McKinstry is. Kool-Aid is your true outside corner. Terrion can do a little bit of everything, which I think can help really keep him on the field. He's really a 3-down, even potentially 4-down guy to have on defense. So that's kind of a tricky question.
From what I'm hearing, Terrion's the better tackler of the two. Like he had a
Yeah.
missed tackle rate almost exactly like Branch. It was under 2%, correct?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Whereas
That's all.
Kool-Aid, he actually missed some tackles, which led to the 2 touchdowns he gave up last year, if I remember right.
Well, and you have to remember they're built completely different as well. I mean, Terrion's a thicker guy. I mean, he's at I believe it's 188 pounds. Kool-Aid's a little bit longer and lankier.
But it's actually the same build. It's just I just think it's more Terrion has that stronger lower body than what
Sure.
McKinstry has. He has more of the toothpick leg. His weight distribution is stretched out because he's
Yep.
6 foot and 199, and Terrion Arnold was 5'11 and 189, which that 1 inch is the 10 pounds just in skeletal.
Sure.
I feel like every year Alabama has one of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for
Like
a while we had a
last
good,
year, Branch.
5 of these guys.
Yeah, it was Branch last year.
About as much sense as wiping your butt than taking a crap. Somebody
And
said
if you
we should trade Gibbs for Zeke Elliott.
Drugs are bad, okay?
Yeah.
okay, let me ask you this: do you think Terrion Arnold or McKinstry could be as good as Mika Fitzpatrick?
Well, Minka Fitzpatrick's a little bit different of a situation. I mean, Minka, he played both safety and corner at Alabama, and he was moved to safety. I don't think Terrion would be moved to safety full time. I can't see that. Maybe later in his career, kind of like a Charles Woodson. But I mean, Minka's just a completely different situation, in my opinion. He was more of a true hybrid and a better safety than he was a corner. At Alabama, when he played corner, I was almost a little hoping, not worried, but just hoping that he would go back and be a true safety at that point.
Big Dan Davis comes in and says one thing I like about Dennis Rakestra is his ability to set the edge in the run game here and there. Which, when Terrion Arnold was in the box, that's what he was there for. He helped to set the edge with Alabama, if I remember right. But 5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and 1 forced fumble for Rakestra. Yeah, we know Big Dan Davis. I knew you'd go there eventually. Rakestra, his first name is Dennis. Add the letter P in front of that, and you get Tide has a talent conduit unlike anything for years. You're absolutely right. They have had. I want to see, but at the same time, NIL and the transfer portal led to a lot of the reason why everybody got more of a level playing field around Alabama and the SEC.
And I want to address
one thing too
about Fitzpatrick.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing too about Terrion is I think he's really a Dan Campbell type of player. He's somebody that's going to put the extra work in. He's the one that's going to spend the extra time studying. He's the one that's going to be willing to take that tackle if it means he could risk injury. He's really that grit type of player that's going to take that extra step to make sure that he's in the right position, and make sure that he's doing the right things the right way.
Absolutely.
And I've heard he has crazy dedication to his craft, studying the hell out of everything.
He does, and actually, funny enough, he became like a son, a second son to Terry Saban, to Miss Terry. They actually started reading books together and did like a book club, and it actually helped reach out to other players on the field. Terrion Arnold and actually even Jalen Milroe are very, very intelligent guys. They're very well read, both of them. When you hear them speak, you just know that these are very smart individuals, and it doesn't sound like I'm going to go kind of against my SEC here, but sometimes you hear a lot of the guys speak, and you're just kind of you're hoping that they take the microphone away. But in
Yeah,
this
there's a lot
case,
of
I mean,
folks,
he's somebody that's very, very intelligent, and when you hear him speak, you can hear that.
I agree 100% on that.
The question I got to ask Terrion Arnold, everybody else was asking the casual questions, like, what's it going to be like to play with Brian Branch again? What was your inspiration? All those casual questions that could have been asked at any time. I immediately went to, well, I've heard how you felt about it. I heard why you got benched back there in 2022 when Eli Ricks took your position. I want to know what you learned during those 4 games on the bench and having to be like practice squad
Yeah.
during those 4 weeks of practice. And he goes, "You mean when I got benched?" I was like, "Yes, when you got benched." He goes, "I learned perseverance and that I never want that to happen again." He goes, "Do you learn how to perfect your craft more? You learn how to do better. You learn how those little mistakes you were making, you had to correct them."
Well, and I mean, Jalen Milroe kind of got that last year as well. Talking about the benching to learn something. I mean, I most people probably don't watch Alabama as closely as I do, but Jalen Milroe did get the same treatment last year. It's something that Saban's done many times before. I mean, if he feels like you need to learn something and you need to learn not just a lesson about preparation, but a life lesson that he thinks is going to be beneficial to you in the future and in your future career. He benched Milroe against USF, and I mean that game was sloppy. It was bad, and he kind of learned that my actions do have results on other people. By not being in that situation and being in the game, we could have very well lost the USF. And think about for Alabama how embarrassing that would be. And Eli Ricks coming from LSU, I mean, he was a very, very talented player, but I just don't think he was ever going to get that full-time starting role at Alabama. He just didn't fit the defense the same way that Terrion Arnold did. And you're absolutely right. Terrion Arnold struggled in 2022, but he made leaps and bounds changes to 2023. He was much more credible on the field. Didn't have to take him off the field. He wasn't making as many mistakes. He increased his interceptions to 5. Um, as I said earlier, he still has his issues that he needs to work on. He's grabby a little bit, but I mean that's with anybody. I mean, there's a lot of guys that get grabby, and some of them they get away with it, and others. I mean, I think of Joey Porter Jr. I mean, he's grabby as well, especially with some of the better corners or better receivers that he goes up against, and there's quite a few of them in that division. It's just kind of, I think, the growing pains of the NFL that switch from college to the NFL, and the game's faster, and everybody's fast now. And Terrion did not run a fast 40 at the combine. I believe it was a 4.5. But I think he plays faster than what he runs in a glorified underwear Olympics.
I agree with you there, man. Granted, where he may not have as much the pure physical talent that some people have, he makes up in work ethic and his brains.
And that's what Dan Campbell preaches, and that's what Dan Campbell is. I mean, Dan Campbell's almost the epitome of the underdog story, where he just
100%.
kind of had to work and grind and make his way and make a name on the team. I mean, if I remember correctly, he played a lot of special teams,
Right.
as well as tight end.
He was a team's blocker, and he also occasionally ran gunner on punt returns.
Yeah.
But and then he cracked into the starting roster when our starting tight end got hurt during that awful season that everybody wants to make fun of the Lions for in 2008. But if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have had Matthew Stafford.
Is that the year that Dan Orlovsky ran out of the back of the end zone?
Yeah, that costing us the only win we had a chance at versus Indianapolis because we were up by a ran out the back of the end zone for a safety towards the end of the game.
I do remember a recruit. Dan Orlovsky was being critical of a recruit, and I remember the recruit tweeting out that he would prefer not to take advice from a quarterback that ran out of the back of the end zone. That's one of the funnier things I remember about that.
And then Jim Garoppolo did that year when they drafted Purdy at the beginning of the season before he got hurt. Remember that?
I do.
Yes.
And he ran out the back of the end zone that gave the Seahawks their first win of the season at the time.
Lions fans rejoiced.
No, we didn't rejoice because that one win is what cost the chance of the 9-8 Lions to have a playoff berth because they only had 9 wins with the refs giving them the last one versus the Rams.
But here, I've been waiting to address this for Jordan, how he brought up Minkah Fitzpatrick there. Minkah Fitzpatrick may have way more physical talent than Terrion Arnold. He's not a quarterback, though. The dude is just a hitter, is what he is.
Right.
Well, I would argue that he also has ball skills. I mean, he's a very good defensive player. I mean, he's probably one of the most well-rounded safeties that Alabama's had. I mean, he was very highly recruited out of New Jersey. He played for one of their bigger prep schools, and
he lived in Old Bridge, New Jersey. He grew up like 4 blocks from my grandmother.
Yeah, he was a very good player. I mean, I think he's well-rounded. He can definitely hit, but he has the ball skills too. I mean, if he's going to go up and make a play, I mean, he's gonna be involved. I mean, if you look back at the Packers game, Steelers versus Packers, that last drive when it came down to the very last drive for the Packers, and I believe he was injured. He was on the sideline, and he called the very last play to stop the game. So I mean, he's even helping call plays even when he's not on the field, and to have that capability and that availability to do that, and for the coaching staff to listen to you in a game-winning situation, I mean, I think that speaks volumes to his ability as a player.
Thank you, Doug.
I agree with you right there. My pro comp for him coming out of college was Troy Polamalu.
Yeah.
But there's something about those safeties that come out of New Jersey as 4- and 5-star recruits. I remember one going to a little upstart school named Michigan, and his name was Jabril Peppers. But anyways, did you hear about Van Davis says, did you hear about 6th-round guard Christian Mahogany looked like a mirror image of Jonah Jackson, according to one of yes. I actually addressed that when we talked about rookie camp, Dan Davis. Yeah, Christian Mahogany, I think he's gonna supplant Sorsdahl as the backup guard, and Sorsdahl might get practice squatted.
He would have been he would have been drafted in the top 3 rounds if his legs were just the same size.
Right. That's the only reason why he fell. When everybody asked why he fell, is because he had no versatility on the O-line, because he has one leg shorter than the other, which makes him a perfect right guard because of the angle his body sits. And to me, that if you look at his production, his stats, and everything he did at Boston College as a 3-year starter with giving up no sack, It literally reads exactly like the stat line of Joda Jackson.
Isn't he another Alabama guy?
No.
No, Boston College.
Which,
Oh, okay.
Big guy, though.
No, I'm thinking of Jonah Williams. That's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Jonah Williams, yeah.
Which you don't hear much out of him right now either.
No,
Oh,
and
yeah,
his
right.
situation is kind of unfortunate too. Um, he was a very, very good left tackle at Alabama. And when he got into the league, he just didn't have the support there that obviously as he did at Alabama. And he was expected to just kind of be the savior, and it just never really transpired.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know where he's at.
He went somewhere else.
Yeah,
Maybe it was
I don't know where
Baltimore.
he's at.
Well, and in other news, we heard that Rasheed Rice, the guy that he punched at the nightclub, is not going to press charges because he actually has an arrest warrant himself and doesn't want to come into the police statement. So the charges have been dropped. I think that's hilarious.
Wait, who punched Rasheed Rice?
No, Rasheed Rice punched a photographer at a nightclub,
Oh,
and the
gotcha.
guy actually has a warrant, and it's a stalker warrant, so it's a class 2 felony because he was stalking a female star.
it was so much worse than that, too, because he texted that reporter and had him come back to the nightclub just so they could beat his ass.
Right. I think it's hilarious. So Rasheed Rice is probably only going to get the slap on the wrist for the accident. Seeing how no one died, it's horrible that they get a slap on the wrist for something like that. But if you get caught gambling, you're going to get a minimum of a 6 game to a year suspension.
But everything's sponsored by DraftKings and FanDuel.
Right. Even if you're on the road in your hotel room waiting for the game the next day, and you want to bet on your college team, don't do it.
I feel like every week we got a Rasheed Rice news.
I know. It's funny. Xavier Worthy. He went to Kansas City, and the first night that he was at his new apartment that he rented, his car gets
stolen. Yeah.
And somebody said Rasheed Rice trying to make sure he gets to stay as number 1 wide receiver on the team.
I seen that too.
Hey, he could do the Sean Taylor treatment, what he used to do, and run the practice and leave his car at the facility.
Right. He could run home.
He's fast enough.
Yeah, but if you do
he probably with traffic, he probably get there much faster.
Yeah.
I've told Dustin this many times. Sean Taylor is my favorite football player of all time. I absolutely love the guy. There are nobody in the NFL right now that are dedicated enough to do that shit with the money they make.
Well, nobody could play with the same position anymore.
But Ennis Rakestraw has actually been taking some snaps at free safety behind Kirby Joseph, who's been dealing with an injury that he sustained during the NFC Championship game too. So it looks like we got some depth and some guys that can rotate in and out at multiple positions from this draft. And I think that's, that versatility, it really shows what their draft strategy was. Ralph, if you've got any OTA news out of Pittsburgh, put it in the chat. I'd be more than happy to read what you have to say.
I did hear that they were awarded the draft.
Yeah, Pittsburgh. The draft will be in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
As long as I am not in Texas at that time, I'm going.
My wife is a big Steelers fan, so I'm just going to hear all of the news and updates.
I'm just going to say this. Who wants to go to the draft in Green Bay next year, and who wants to go to the draft the year after in Pittsburgh in April when it's cold?
I
would much rather go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's not terribly cold in April.
Well, I guess yeah.
And Pittsburgh has way more hotels, and they're probably not booked up already by now like Green Bay's already is for next year.
And Pittsburgh doesn't smell like cow shit.
In Green Bay, people just park at their house.
James Burgess says,
Thank
I
you,
heard
Trey.
Pitt has a QB situation, namely Russell is truly the guy. Oh,
You know what? I was
His
sad
team.
because I think from what I'm understanding is that Justin Fields blocked the trade to Washington.
right.
Um,
Because he didn't want anything to do with it. He didn't want to
Yeah, I
go
don't
there.
blame him.
Well,
I would have really liked to have him.
think about what he's been through. He just was with an O line that could barely hold a pocket for 3 seconds, had to run a lot. Granted, most of his sacks and fumbles came outside the tackles because of him holding the ball too long at the same time. And while everybody gives the Bears O line trash for being so bad in pass protection, at 2.7 seconds, it was still a top 15 O line in pass protection. The problem is their run protection was so bad. So at one point, I think it was during David Montgomery's career, I think it was the last year there, and it said yards before contact, and which is a huge rating for running stats for O line. Every team in the league had at least .1 before contact, except the Bears that year. It was negative .7. So in other
I,
words, almost a yard behind the line, somebody contacted their running back.
I don't even think Derrick Henry would be able to, do great
Are we
things.
talking prime Derrick Henry?
hey, have you seen Derrick Henry in the videos in Baltimore?
I have.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
He's looking good.
He's
I mean,
looking
think
good.
about how scary that offense is going to be. You have Lamar Jackson, you have Derrick Henry, and then you have Ricard blocking for Derrick Henry.
I would do nothing but run the option.
Yeah, I would say the RPO run pass option is all they should run anymore.
I would get out of the way, if I'm being honest. Could you imagine being trampled by both of them like Mufasa?
I mean, Patrick Ricard is a tackle in a fullback's body.
Yes.
So Lamar Jackson gets the ball out behind both of them. Just get out of the way.
Would you
Can you
rather
imagine
try to?
both of them, Derrick Henry and Ricard, blocking for Lamar?
Yeah, and here you go. That's the situation I'm talking about. And as you start to get to Lamar, finally somebody gets to him and starts to wrap him up. Derrick Henry just backpedals 2 steps and he laterals and it's gone.
It would be like if you guys remember the hit that John Mechie put on a defensive player for Florida after an interception. That's exactly what it would look like.
Yeah.
You know who the last team to have two 1,000-yard rushers is?
The Lions, isn't it?
Giants.
No, it's the Baltimore Ravens in 2019 when Lamar won MVP.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
because the other one
Oh,
was
that's yeah. You said rushers. You didn't say rush running backs. Got you.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're going to do it again probably.
Shit, they may have 2 1,500-yard rushers down there.
Derrick Henry has just had such an impressive career with not a ton to block for him.
I would say Derrick Henry basically had the Chicago Bears O-line blocking for him in Tennessee half of the time he was there.
Yeah. I mean,
Get out of the big man's way.
he struggled early on. I mean, I know that it's well documented about his talk with Eddie George that really got him moving and doing the right things. And I feel like every year he's got some workout video that just goes viral because I'm honestly still not sure that he's not a machine. When you have a high school football that makes a rule that if you're up 21, you're not allowed to touch the ball. I mean, that's just insane to me. It's like Bo Jackson type things, you know?
And the guy is huge, too, and still moves like that.
Yeah, he's
Braylon Allen.
6'2" and like 250.
Braylon Allen, the freaking running back out of Wisconsin. That dude is jacked. He is huge. He's 220. They showed a picture of him training with Derrick Henry. You look at him next to him, and he looks like a freaking twig next to him. I'm just like, how big is that guy really? Are they lying about how much he weighs?
Well, and it's funny because I think it was Kirk Cousins that put out a tweet not long ago. It showed a picture of what Bo Scarborough looked like in 10th grade and then what Kirk Cousins looked like in 12th grade. And he said, "This is why Bama never called me." You know what I mean? They just look so different. The
Yeah.
athlete that Alabama gets, I mean, if you look at Blackshear out of Duncanville, he was called Zeus. He's still in college. He's in the transfer portal now, but he just looks like a chiseled Greek god. And these kids now, like I don't know how they do it. The training programs are just so different than what they used to be.
Right.
HGH.
Hey,
The closest guy, the closest guy I can think of Derrick Henry's build and that speed is Jonathan Taylor, and he's not. He's still like 15 pounds lighter.
But James Burgess does a good analogy. Henry is Earl Campbell 2.0. Okay, I got to go it alone. Bad news for whoever's in my way.
The old video of Earl Campbell lowering his head and just putting his head right into somebody's chest, and then his jersey ripping
As the
down
other guy's
halfway.
coming from the side, just stiff armed him while he's still got the head buried in the other guy's chest. Just stiff armed the guy off of him.
You know, and there's that video of Derrick Henry in the playoff game against Michigan State. Shalik Calhoun, I believe it was, coming off the edge. And that man, I believe, was 270. And he made him do a flip on his way to a touchdown. I mean, he runs like a deer. He's got such long legs, and he doesn't really look that fast. But he has getaway speed and just strength.
He's
he runs angry. Marshawn Lynch with speed and a stiff arm.
Yeah.
Marshawn Lynch had a stiff arm. Stop it.
Okay, you asked Marshawn Lynch. I'm sorry. Ask Josh Norman who has a better stiff arm.
Or Earl Thomas.
James Burgess says, "Yeah, Calhoun was not a flower child. I remember that play."
I'll never forget that play. As long as I live, I'll never forget that play.
Well, this has been an amazing chat. I want to thank Dustin and Jordan for coming in here. And as always, my co-host, Von Doom, because he's the one that brought Dustin onto the show. And you're more than welcome to come back any Wednesday night. You're free if you want to be on.
I appreciate that very much.
When the news gets flowing and there's actual news, you can ask Jordan. I do a pretty good job of picking out 3 to 5 of the good top stories around the NFL so we can all talk about it and dive into it. But with it being a slow news pace and OTAs are going, I figured this was a nice little way to do the roundtable and then give everybody like their own 30 seconds to 2 minutes to talk about their team.
Yeah, now we have nothing to talk about until training camp.
I know it sucks.
It's like the draft and the Super Bowl. You get like that month where you're like, oh, there's nothing to talk about now.
Oh, there is this.
Talk about the Rangers
and how they're going to lose.
I'm sure Rashee Rice will do something in the meantime.
Yeah, probably. There is something that comes out like every week about him.
The odds are in favor of that.
But Kyle Drasher said something about the Jets. If Rodgers can stay healthy, they could be an 11 and 12 win team. I said if Rodgers stays healthy, they're probably winning that division.
I can see it. Hey, let me ask you guys this. Now we got some people that know some Pittsburgh stuff in here too, and we got Packers fans that sprinkle in this chat for some reason. We love you guys, but fuck the Packers.
Did you guys see the rumors? It's not been confirmed yet, obviously, but did you guys see the rumors that the Jaguars are going to give Trevor Lawrence a $50+ million deal?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Good for him.
Yeah,
Daniel Jones' contract was better.
Please give the next Daniel Jones a overpaid contract.
Yes. Lowering Jones's number on that freaking top 30 list. But anyway.
It's Danielle Jones since he needs to cut his damn hair.
That's Sunshine from Remember the Titans.
Hey, speaking of the Giants, what's up with them jerseys they had with the khakis?
Oh man,
it's ugly.
Okay,
you don't know the history of the Giants either, huh?
Okay,
apparently not.
The pants and socks are from the 1924. They were the original style pants and socks they wore. The jerseys are the ones they had from, I believe it was 39 through 49, and the winged helmet they had from 37 through 49 in the championship. Everything's a throwback to the original 20 years of the team being there. This is our 100 year.
Yeah, I could see the blue and the red because that's their colors, but I didn't get the khaki part of it.
You know what I thought it was? Honestly, I thought they were trying to look like Bill Parcells.
They look like a video game. You would create a jersey.
If they stood with their legs together, they got it right. They look like a bomb pop, and the khakis are the popsicle stick.
Yeah.
It really does look like what they wore back in like the 30s. So I can't hate on it. It's ugly as fuck, but I can't hate on it.
Good Lord, James, I didn't see.
But I didn't know they had garbage bags as their pants.
Trevor should be pressed, I think. But then again, I'm panicking.
You know what, though? Going back to the Jets really quick, I think that they've done something great with adding Corley to that receiving core with Garrett Wilson. Corley is I felt like he was such an undervalued wide receiver in that draft, and to just add him to that offense, it's going to be deadly.
The goddamn Jets stole my entire draft. I called their entire goddamn draft that I wanted the players on the Giants to take. And they were taking them right after I said it on here. I swear to God, we were bugging and we were watching.
If the Jets didn't take them, who took the other ones you wanted?
The Cowboys.
I'm surprised the Dolphins didn't take Corley.
I mean,
he's a damn good player.
Because he would fit really well in that offense.
The Panthers did one thing right, and that's going to help Bryce Young out a lot.
Oh, yeah.
They got the best running back this draft. Jonathan Brooks is the real deal.
Well, and the wide receiver out of South Carolina. The wide receiver is very good.
He's good with the ball in his hands, but he got to give him the ball first.
Yeah, I mean, they did spend a lot of money in cap money on offensive line. So, I mean.
They didn't get another receiver, too?
Yeah.
Well, they got one last year. They got Jonathan Mingo.
No, I'm saying they got like a receiver in free agency, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah, they got Deontay Johnson. They traded for him.
Yeah, that's who it was.
From Pittsburgh.
Because Thielen was like their number one. Now he's like their number 3.
Yeah, it was Thielen and the tight end. They were both older tight end, both older players.
Yeah, it's the guy that had his head messed up.
Is it Hayden Hurst?
Hurst or something, yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, hang on. Can I please get my question out now?
Okay.
All right.
Who has a better career? Ben Roethlisberger or Aaron Rodgers?
Ben Roethlisberger.
Big Ben.
More yards, Super Bowl wins.
The only thing Rodgers got is MVPs.
Yep.
Rodgers says MVPs.
So here's my thing, though. I guess if I could play devil's advocate, I guess when you talk about some of the best quarterbacks that have played the game, I don't really think of Big Ben that comes first right away. I mean, I would think of Rodgers before I would think of Big Ben.
I agree with that. Very underrated guy.
Here's my other argument. How many great Hall of Fame type quarterbacks were in the NFC when Rodgers played compared to the AFC? You have Brady and Manning most of their careers in the AFC.
I get that, but also they never drafted anybody for Rodgers.
What do you mean for Rodgers? They never drafted.
Team. He should have won 3 Super Bowls with that team that was drafted around Brett Favre at the end of his career. He won 1.
And I'm pretty sure Aaron Rodgers is the only quarterback to have the number 1 seed 2 years in a row and not get to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my view on this, though. Roethlisberger, more wins, more touchdowns, less interceptions, more Super Bowl rings, more yards. Nobody thinks that Ben Roethlisberger is better than Aaron Rodgers, though.
I don't know why.
Because you didn't see him in the headlines outside of that stuff that happened when he first came into the league. Other than that, he shut his mouth, kept his head down, and did his job.
Before I get to the sponsors, we have one more question out of the chat. Open question to anyone or otherwise. What's the shittiest division in the league?
The NFC South.
I would say NFC and NFC South combined. I mean, if you look at it on each side, the South is the worst divisions in each conference.
I think the AFC South's a lot better than people give it credit for because the Texans,
South.
the Texans are good. The Jaguars are good as long as Trevor Lawrence stays healthy, and then the Colts could be good. They're decent, and then the only team that's really a dumpster fire right now is Tennessee.
You said
The NFC,
key words there, though. They could be good. You didn't say they were good. There's a big difference.
yeah,
in that statement.
yeah, but I'm saying the Colts are always a decent team. They're like always a 8 to 10 win team. Like the freaking nobody in the Falcons division is always like a consistent around the playoff team. And then the
They got to
Texans
stop
are
running Anthony Richardson, though. I
and
mean,
the
they
Texans
have to start protecting him at some point.
Texans and Jaguars are better than anybody in the NFC South.
Say what?
The Texans and Jaguars would be the best team in the NFC South. If they were the NFC South, they would be the best team in that
I
division.
think
Either
the
one of those.
Jaguars would still be behind the Bucks, technically.
Yeah, I agree. The Bucks, I think, would be better.
I think the Jaguars are a better football team.
I think overall the NFC South is worse, but in the AFC, the AFC South is the worst division.
I don't even think. Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure.
Do you
Because I
remember
think
watching
division
the
with the
game
best
last
team.
year, the Bucks and the Texans? Baker Mayfield and CJ Stroud going back and forth the entire game. I mean, that I don't remember if it went to overtime or if the Texans won in regulation.
They
But
won in overtime.
In overtime, that end of that game was one of the most thrilling games that I had seen in a long time. And for Baker Mayfield to go through everything that he has and going through so many teams to get to the Buccaneers and finally start to shine, I mean, I wasn't expecting that.
I mean, Baker Mayfield has had almost as many offensive coordinators as he's had coaches.
True.
Yeah, but think about it. What does Baker Mayfield do really well?
Improvises.
He throws jump balls. Guess who might be the best jump ball guy in the NFL?
Mike Evans. I get that.
Oh, there's no might about it. He is 100% is.
That's what I'm saying. So there you go.
I think Mayfield is a very good improviser.
Right.
When things break down, he makes something happen.
He does. Hands down, Baker Mayfield may have resurrected his career, but he needs to do it 2 years in a row.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
Never did in his career. He's never had 2 good years in a row.
I agree.
So
I think
the inconsistency with him, and everybody says, but he didn't have 2 offensive coordinators in a row. I said, what are you talking about? He didn't change offensive coordinators until year 3 at Cleveland.
Yeah.
I still think it was dumb for Cleveland to push him out.
Well, look at him now. This is a big year for Cleveland. If Watson doesn't pan out, this is a huge year for them.
I mean, they're going to spend a lot of money if Watson doesn't pan out.
Yeah, but they're going to have to eat that money, and they're going to have to look for a new quarterback.
And James Burgess, I completely agree. Mike Evans has a gold jacket already measured.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he's a first ballot wide receiver.
He has to be. As much as I hate to say it because he's an Aggie, and he was on that Johnny Manziel team that beat Alabama. I mean, he's probably one of the most consistent wide receivers that there's been, and he's had some really bad quarterbacks. Let's be honest.
To beat what he was saying about Big Ben earlier to the Rodgers comparison, Mike Evans is kind of like that for the receivers. Like nobody talks about Mike Evans being like a top.
Yeah.
Like nobody puts him in their top 5 receivers every year. He's like always 1,000 yards.
5 every year. He's somebody I look for in the draft in the first 2 rounds every year.
It's guaranteed to get 1,000 yards.
If you ask most fans who their top 5 receivers, like Mike Evans isn't going to be in their top 5. It's going to be like Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson, Dante Adams, those kind of players.
To be fair, he wouldn't be one that I would name. He's kind of gotten the Tim Brown. He's gotten the Tim Brown situation where he just puts his head down and he doesn't make a lot of noise, so you forget about him.
Yeah,
exactly. That is a great comparison right there.
As far as his work ethic and everything, as far as talent, I think Mike Evans has Tim Brown beat hands down any day of the week. But maybe alludes to it. It is time for our sponsors, and the first one is the one all my fans love the most.
Fuck the Packers.
Yes, it's FTP. It's not Found the Plunger. It's not Fred's True Prophecies. It's not even Flog the Porpoise. It's Fuck the Packers, ain't it, Von Doom?
Yep, it is. Oh,
Or
but in the
hey,
mornings, it is for the people. But tonight, as every night, it is fuck the Packers.
or
Yes,
it could
sir.
be or it could be fuck the Patricios.
I just think Flog the Porpoise sounds pretty funny myself. But
Well, and funny thing too, when it comes to the Packers were a team that was actually very heavily interested in Terrion Arnold.
I know.
So the fact that he went to Detroit is almost
We got a
you
new guest.
know a good situation because you took him from a division rival.
All right, Ken. You got about. Oh, there he is. Where'd he go? There he is. Let me give you the floor. You got about 3 minutes to go ahead and talk about what's happening at the OTAs with the Bears.
Oh well, of course, like every other team in the NFL, all the players look awesome. Everyone looks great. Did you see the video of Caleb? Look at the Bears marketing team up their game. They have a video right now of Caleb throwing the ball. I'm not even sure they're throwing it to, but if I watch this video, Hall of Famer. He's gonna torch everyone this year. It's OTAs, man. I love OTAs because it's great that they're getting back of it, but really, dude, it's OTAs. Everyone looks great. They're no pads, helmet, no defense. Every ball looks great unless you're JJ McCarthy and missing him by 6 feet.
I guess you heard about that.
Yeah, I mean, what is there to say? It's they all look great. I mean, I'm happy with what the Bears have done. I'm super excited, more than I've been in a long time for this Bears team because maybe just the amount of talent they put on the field before they even got to the draft, and then you had that draft. So, and it's looking like they're building like a Theo Epstein sustainable success, like what Theo did with the Cubs. So the way Poles has done it, but I mean, dude, it's OTAs. They all look great.
Right.
They all look good.
Unless
Your marketing keeps dropping the ball, man.
Well, I mean, yeah,
There's
if you're that, I mean, that overall though, I mean, the overall thing though, right, is like they look good.
They
I have
do,
a question
and I like
for
the moves
Ken.
they made.
Okay.
Ken, just a quick question for you. How did they expect to work Rome Odunze into the wide receiver rotation after getting Keenan Allen and adding DJ Moore last year? What do you kind of look to expect out of Rome Odunze? Is it going to be a soft entry, kind of like a highly touted high school recruit, or is it going to be a kind of we're going to find a package for you until maybe an injury or or you outperform one of the other guys?
Here's the thing about Odunze, it's a luxury, right? It's a luxury.
Yeah.
This is Jahmyr Gibbs last year for Detroit, a luxury pick. They turned into something spectacular. Look at DJ. I mean, you look at Rome Odunze. By the way, I should have that jersey here. It's already been ordered. I already got him and Williams coming. I have no current Bears, so I had to,
Why
but
did
look
you
at
talk to me? Because I got connections.
I got Steve, Steve Thielen.
Mm-hmm.
He hooked me up.
Oh, are they less than 75 apiece?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Anywho, after that sidebar, I think with Rome, look at you go to a lot of teams in this league. He's a one, day one. You go to Chicago, he's like 3. So I mean, but here's the thing. I think what's great about having Odunze is you can, with Keenan Allen not playing a full season last year due to injury, you can work a lot of things where you can put packages where he's the X one play, Keenan's the next play. DJ is the one. Point blank, period, end stop. Right?
Sure.
He's the one. But you can do a lot between Keenan and Rome switching up and because they can look at all 3 of these receivers can play the 1, the 2, or the 3. No question about it. They all have the talent. I think that's what you're going to see with Rome. They're going to move around. They will move him around. They will create situations for him, and they'll do the same thing for Keenan, and they'll do the same thing for DJ. You know what? Look at they may even put Rome in the 1 for a couple plays, put DJ in the 3, and just like, what's that going to do to a defensive coordinator when you go to line up and Roma Dunze is in the 1 slot and DJ Moore's in the 3? You're going to be going like, what the hell are you doing?
Well,
But
I do know that DJ Moore did play the slot a lot when he was at Maryland. So he does have a lot of experience in the slot. And I mean, even at this point in Keenan Allen's career, I mean, he doesn't have the most dependable availability when it comes to injury. Like you said, it is a luxury. And you also have Big Cole Kmet there in the middle. So
and the other tight end, I keep forgetting his name. The new guys, it takes me a minute. But he's everywhere he's gone, he's been a quarterback's best friend. So we've got 2 really good catching tight ends. Devontae Swift, a good coaching running back. What now?
Wasn't it Everett?
Everett, thank you, Everett. And then you add Swift, and you already have 2 running backs that were on the roster last year that can catch, run, block. Swift. Like, I don't think Swift is RB1 necessarily.
I hear Bears fans come in my chat talking crap how Swift is going to be the running back 1. I said, well, then good luck. You'll get 4 good games. He'll fall apart. He'll get hurt and then miss the rest of the season like he did with Detroit.
What does that do for Roshan Johnson then?
Well, that's right now, why would Khalil Herbert not be running back 1 still? Roshan Johnson, I love the kid, and they started to use him a lot 3rd, 4th quarter. When you want to pound a team down, they would go to Roshan. So, I mean, once again, Swift, another luxury pickup for the Bears, because the Bears, for the most part of the season last year, ran with Roshan and Khalil for a lot of the season. I mean, the last 5 games, they were the only 2 running backs active on the roster. So, the main running backs. So, I mean, once again, Swift for me is a short down and distance, goal line guy, receiving guy. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility for Shane Waldron, and that also is going to help Caleb.
And for somebody being outside of the division and not, fully focused on that division, I really thought that Roshan was going to solidify his spot as an every down guy, just because he didn't have all that tread on the tires at Texas behind Bijan, and of how strong he is and his ability to move. And, that could still be the case because, Swift has a history of fumbles and injuries and attitude. So, and I mean, Roshan really could be that guy. I'm a big supporter of Roshan Johnson. I think he's a very good running back. I was kind of expecting a little bit more last year.
Well, I mean, so the Bears gave him a ton of time last year, especially 3rd, 4th quarter when you're trying to beat teams down. Look, I think Roshan was the steal of that draft.
Yeah.
The Bears to get him. I think he was the absolute. 5 years from now, they're going to look back and say the Bears stole from the NFL, from every other team. You all 31 other teams need to go get a check from the Bears. They stole from you when they got Roshan, when they got him, because he's showing you he's going to be an every down back in this league. Look, he outdid Bijan last year when we played Atlanta. He had better numbers in every aspect of the game than Bijan Robinson did.
He had better averages in college than Bijan, playing behind Bijan.
Yeah. To be fair, he also had Arthur Smith calling his plays. So, I mean.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Yeah, that's true. But here, real quick. Roshan should be running back 1 because he could beat him down in the first 2 quarters and then have Herbert and Swift be able to just blow past people that are exhausted and beat up in the 2nd and 3rd and 4th quarter.
And that could be the plan. I mean, Von Doom, I know you're a Giants fan, right? So would you, if Roshan was on the trading block, would you give us 2nd rounder for Roshan right now?
No, not right now. I don't think we're to a point where he would benefit our team enough. We would waste him like we wasted Barkley.
You'd waste him. Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
I'm in the same boat because I think it's unfortunate that we got Austin Eckler. I spoke about that earlier, but that was very head scratching for me when we have Brian Robinson.
Right. One thing I will say is last year, Von Doom was with me on a lot of my mock draft shows and everything else. I was one of the few that said we'll probably draft Jahmyr Gibbs in the 2nd round and trade Swift. I was one of the few Lions people that kept saying that. And everybody's like, "Oh, you're daft. We're gonna build it. We're gonna make everything around Swift better."
To talk to James's comments here, like Khalil should be RB1 on the depth chart right now until Roshan overtakes him. Paying your last comment there, paying more for Swift at RB3 than Monty is not awesome, but addressing depth is a thing. Look at, I loved Monty. I thought the Lions got a phenomenal deal when they signed him, and the only reason they were able to draft Jahmyr Gibbs is because they got Monty.
Oh yeah.
If they didn't sign Monty, they wouldn't have picked Gibbs. I don't think.
Right. No, I mean, but free agency was done, and we got Monty, and I said because of that, they were drafting Gibbs and trading.
But on the flip, I think if you look at the Bears running back room, all three running backs do something completely different, and that's the thing. Look at, I get what some people say about Swift. Oh, good luck, he's gonna be hurt, drops, fumbles. But dude, his numbers are, look how many touchdowns the guys get. Look at how he does on short yardage conversion and some of these other big stats. I mean, look at, he's in it, okay, so he fumbles once every 3 games, but he's going to convert 15 fourth down short fourths for you. That's an okay trade-off that that you're willing to accept. It's just that the different looks he gives you, and I don't think he's going to be the everyday guy. June 1st cuts, James, too, I think they've kind of already happened. I know it's JB can talk. We talked about this last year, right, JB? Oh, we can't wait to June 1st. There'll be a lot to talk about. June 1st cuts. And then June 1st came.
And 90 players on their roster. It's not like people are coming into camp with 100 players anymore.
Well, here's what we heard. For June 1st cuts, so it's usually for the money issue. Here's what happened on June 1st last year. I got an instant replay. You guys ready here? I'm going to roll the tape. That was it.
Ken, can I ask you something else?
Yeah.
So I want to talk about Swift again for a couple minutes here. Now, in the beginning of the season when he was on the Eagles, he was very explosive. They used him a lot. They used him a lot in the passing and running game, and he was a big part of what they did. And then towards the middle and the end of the season, they just stopped going to that. They stopped running the ball. I mean, kind of similar to what they did in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. They stopped running Miles Sanders. They stopped running DeAndre Swift towards the end of the year. Does that concern you, considering the success that they had at the beginning of the year? So if he gets off to a hot start, does he have that ability to keep going the rest of the season?
So look at, if he gets off to a hot start and he does it for the whole season, then this is what you hear in Chicago, right? If he starts off to a hot start and goes cold, and we go with Roshan and Khalil again, this is what you hear in Chicago. They've got it covered. They've got it covered.
Completely sucks.
Look at. Oh yeah. If all 3 running backs suck. Yeah, bring on the gunfire. But that's just the problem. We don't have 3 crappy running backs. We got 2 we already know are good for this roster.
Sure.
Swift, can only add. He can only add. That's all he can do is add.
The only concern I have for Bear fans when it comes to Swift, that's the only stadium he's dropped every touchdown pass he's been thrown.
Well, maybe we'll just
whether
use
he
him
was
more
an
for away
Eagle,
game.
whether he was a Lion, he dropped them all.
Well, we'll let him. We'll give him more touches on away games than home games. How's that, Jeremy?
That makes a lot of sense there. Hey Ken, I got a question for you, man.
Yeah.
You were talking about the marketing they're doing with Caleb Williams and all that. How come you guys aren't touching the untapped market of the LGBTQ? You guys got LGBTQ QB1 on that roster. Why the hell ain't you guys making money for that shit?
I saw. I mean, it's a veiled attempt at trash talk in a sense. On the other sense, so look, the Bears put out a meme with, I think it was the Bears that put out. I've seen it a few times on Facebook. It's a bear and with the pink claws. Yeah. I mean, they're going to play, you're talking, see, I love this about some of the fan bases, like Green Bay fans especially. They like to play it up. Oh, you're a quarterback. Like, dude, we had fucking Dennis Rodman in Chicago when he was a Bull in the 90s. Do you think there's nothing Caleb is going to do that's going to shock a single Chicagoan?
You're not wrong there. And that meme, I saw it. I laughed my ass off about it. First thing I said to my buddy who sent it to me, I'm like, that better look like it's going to fuck you up, then fuck you.
Yeah. I mean, but this is a city that had Dennis Rodman when he married himself in a white dress in New York City. We don't care. You know, it's a Phil Jackson approach in Chicago. Do what you want to do off the field, as long as you produce on the field. Or you can go the Dr. Dennis Leary approach. I don't know if you guys ever listened to Dennis Leary on his second album after No Cure for Cancer. I can't remember what the second one's, Bicycles in China or something like that. He said, you know, I don't care what you want to be the military. You want to fuck sheep? Here's a sheep and a gun. Go kill the enemy. Go, 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 go. As long as you're killing the enemy, I don't care what you do. It's the same kind of situation with Caleb. You know, paint your nails fuchsia, pink, have a funky say on it, whatever. Dress like Cam Newton at a press conference. Cool. Dye your hair like Dennis Rodman. Even better. Don't care.
Exactly. At the end of the day, who are any of us to tell him what he can put in his mouth and he can't, right?
Does his maturity worry you at all?
Dude.
No, because you know what? This is something that's interesting, and Jeremy's heard me talk about this on our morning show on Ken and Ken in the Morning. We've talked about this a little bit with NIL. This year's draft class is really the first year where NIL is a massive impact. So you've got Caleb coming out and Marvin Harrison Jr. are the two highest paid football players that came out into the draft this year. These guys have been making NFL money for 2 years already.
Right.
They've already conquered some of that maturity issues that some rookies have when they start making that big money.
Well, I don't think I'm talking about that as like I guess like a going broke situation with maturity and having money. But
that
I
plays into
think
it.
For me as a non-Bears fan, seeing him, you know, cry in the stands, you know, on his mom's shoulder, and you know, his seems to have arrogance.
I got an answer for you. You ready?
Yeah.
Dennis Rodman.
I get that, but it's a different situation though.
No, Dennis Rodman. It is what it is. As long as he plays good on the field, he can cry on his mama's shoulder every time he loses a game. I don't care. As long as he wins, as long as he's if he's playing good, right? He can go cry on his mama's shoulder whenever he wants. I don't care. If he wants to marry himself, if he wants to flaunt his very, very hot girlfriend all over town and then come say, oh, here's my boyfriend too. Cool, more power to you. I don't care. I don't think Chicago fans care because
I heard the real reason why he wouldn't say bear down at the press conference first day of the draft.
Why?
Because his girlfriend gets him to say it when she pegs him.
So, I mean, you know, honestly though, when it comes to Caleb, I'm not worried about his maturity on the field or off the field. I think the money part though is big, because the money part seeps into the field part during their rookie seasons. It used to. You'd see it with guys who, you know, with the new lifestyle and everything. Now these guys are coming in. They're already professional. They've already adapted to the lifestyle change of having money. And I think that makes the transition into the league for some of these guys a lot easier than it was, let's say, when, you know, Brett Favre came in the league and the guys were bringing a 12-pack and that was considered being ready for camp, right? And all of a sudden, I got all this money, so I'm buying kegs of beer. You know, it was different. I think that it's affecting the maturity level of these guys. I mean, look at Neighbors with this $10,000 bet. I mean, why can he bet a $10,000 bet as a rookie? Because he was already making millions of dollars as a college athlete. He's
Also,
already got the money in his bank.
I think
got another thing about that though. Yes, they called it all publicly. I bet you it's still privately going on either way.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Anyway, the NIL also did this for them. It made more players stay in college, so the group that came into the NFL draft this year had the largest upperclassmen percentile in years. So they already had that age there too to mature.
There's two reasons for that though. These guys were the fifth year seniors on the COVID exception.
Yep.
Yes, it's the last year of COVID. But
yeah,
on top of that, you don't have the guys in your sophomores and your juniors saying, hey, we need to go pro because we need money now to take care of our family anymore.
Right.
They made that money in college.
Yeah, so it actually could have. Go ahead, JB. I'm sorry.
I was talking about people who hopped in the chat. We got John Phillips, a Giants fan, chiming in about the Bears.
No. John Phillips is a dirty 49ers fan.
No, John.
Oh.
Yeah, John was talking about Von Doom chiming in about the Bears and giving him a face palm for it.
Yep.
What's up, Quinn? I mean, NIL, I think in a way it's better for college football for multiple reasons. One, like you just said, Von Doom, they might, now they're not leaving after the sophomore year because they need money. They'll get some NIL money. Maybe they'll stay at least to their junior, maybe even to their senior. Two, I have a buddy who I was in the Army with. His son plays college football. He played for Michigan, not last year, but for 3 years prior to that. Some of you may be able to figure out who this kid was because he was on the field a bit, but wasn't a superstar. But because of NIL, even if he didn't have his dad's GI Bill, his college would have been paid without getting a scholarship, right? He's now at another university playing out his 5th year for COVID on the exception, right? Still getting NIL, and that's paying for that school. So you got other guys who are now going to play in college programs, even at D2, right? And they're getting NIL money that's paying for their college tuition, whereas before NIL happened, there was no money for those guys. And the ones who really benefit the most aren't the football players. It's the volleyball players, the track athletes, the gymnasts, who, by the way, are the highest paid NIL players of all. They're the ones now generating money, the basketball players, right? As well, so NIL is a good thing, but in NFL terms, now we're getting rookies who are coming in with they've been wearing NFL chains for 2 years already, driving NFL cars for 2 years already, right? They've already bought mama her house. They've already maybe invested or or being better educated on their money. So that growth process has already started 2 years early. They're more grown and professional now when they come to the league than they used to be. And I think that's why you're going to see guys like CJ Stroud last year, because he was already there. And you're going to see that with Roma Dunze. You're going to see that with all the guys that went top 10. You're going to see better quality as rookies because of that education and growth process they had under the NIL program.
Well, with the exception of J.J. McCarthy. But anyways.
How about the kid from Florida? The one that was
Jaden Rashad.
Yes, you saw that, where they freaking reneged on $14 million worth of an NIL deal and screwed the kid out of college. Now, Florida State, the University of Florida is being sued, the coach is being sued, and the freaking NIL booster are all being sued right now.
Yeah, but I think that's more of, I don't know. I think that's more to do with him failing at his next school that he's at, more than anything else.
So do I, honestly. But I think
he's at Arizona
NIL worked
State,
great for college. Yes, he is. He went like 3 and 4 as a redshirt freshman. I love NIL, and I hate it. They need to be able to control it more.
There's going to be issues with NIL, like there's anything. And James says NIL is going to affect the next CBA in a few ways. And I think he's right. And I think, look at these guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., they're the test bed dummies. Like the whole thing with him being sued by Fanatics right now, I hope the hell he beats the piss out of Fanatics.
Yeah, me too. I agree with what he's doing.
Fuck them guys.
Fanatics ruins the game for fans. Like, try to get a Brady signature. You get a 3x5 card for $3,200. Thank you, Fanatics. If you want an Aaron Rodgers signed lid, minimum $500 just to sign anything. They've jacked up the prices for corporate greed and money, right? As Fanatics. And what makes me mad right now is Caleb is signed to Fanatics, and so is Rome for the next 2 years. So I'm not going to be getting anything signed by them unless I win it in some Raz room. But I won't ever do a signing because Fanatics is going to overcharge. And I hope that Marvin Harrison Jr., because they don't even have a signed contract. They have like this
an offer sheet.
Yeah. So I hope him and his dad beat the piss out of him. And now college players are realizing, wait a minute, Fanatics doesn't do anything to me. I can use my own agent to do signings, and NFLPA can screw me up when I get to the league for my jersey. And I think so. NILs are evolving and growing, and people are still learning.
What I
Well,
like is that he's standing up for himself and, saying that, well, my value has gone up now, because now I'm in the NFL. Now I'm selling jerseys because in college, I mean, most of those are kept at the bookstore. Well, he can't sell his jersey, but
Oh, he
but
can't
I'm
sell
but
his
I'm
jersey
saying
till he signs
right,
with
right,
somebody.
right,
he is
right. But
selling them
but
though on his website.
the opportunity to sell his jersey.
Right.
Now he's able to be in so many different things, and his if you will, his NIL is bigger now than
Right.
what it was at Ohio State. I mean, obviously, like you said, he can't do the jersey yet, but there's the availability to do the jersey to be more
He,
widespread.
he has the jerseys and helmets up on his site right now. Also, like me and JB were talking about the other morning on the show, because of what the Las Vegas Aces basketball team did, it's going to totally screw up everything. Because the entire team signed an NIL deal with the Las Vegas Convention Center and Tourism and got paid $100,000, which was more than their contracts for over 6 of the girls on that team. They're getting investigated by the WNBA right now to see if it's a violation or something. If that does not come back as a violation, the NIL in pro sports can completely circumvent the salary cap. You can sign a guy for bullshit, give him a big ass NIL deal with your company, your city, your state, and there you go. You can do super teams in football again.
Well, then we go back to what James said, though. He's got that last comment down there. NIL is going to affect CBA. And there will be something in the CBA about the NIL, and there will have to be some talks between the NFL and NCAA, and they're going to have to make these NIL deals where as soon as you end college, they end.
I
Or
think
something.
the CBA, I think the union, the players should all say absolutely not to it. The NFL is too greedy, too much power. These kids need power to themselves again.
Okay. Anyways, John Phillips comes in the chat and says there's no drive to become superstars in the NFL by paying college athletes. They deserve it, I agree. But I like that because they get paid, guys like Saban can't hoard all the top recruits.
Can I hit on that, please?
Absolutely.
So what the funny and underestimating thing here is that even when NIL became a thing, Saban didn't pay guys anyway.
Yeah.
He didn't put out big NIL deals, and Bryce was really the first guy to really get a chunk of money, a good chunk of money. He wanted guys that did not want NIL deals. He wanted to get to the next level and not get NIL deals. Kirby Smart is doing the same thing at Georgia as well.
You're right. He
I,
hate the
I,
NFL, and I think that's why he retired.
Yeah, and I mean honestly, and that's a good point because he had every guy come up to him and request more playing time or more NIL money, but did not ask him how to get better. And
Right.
he had recruits come up to him and say, "I want X amount of money to come look at your campus," and he would tell them, "You're not an Alabama guy. You go somewhere else." That's
Right.
just not the way that he operated. And for a long time, I mean, guys went there to play for Saban. They went to play for national championships. Look how many guys he has more first round picks than he does losses.
Yeah. I mean, I think NIL is still going to. I mean, let's face it, it's relatively new, right? So, like this Marvin Harrison case is going to change college kids. They're going to say, "Look, I'm not going to sign fanatics for autographs and jerseys." But so that NIL might go away, but the NIL these guys do with like Subway, Nike, to wear their shoes, to promote their sandwich, those can carry through fine. But I think athletes now are going to say, well, look at Fanatics, why am I going to sign an exclusive signing deal with you for my jerseys and my signature as a cut? No, I'm not, because I can still get an NIL deal where I make money off my jerseys without you, Fanatics, and I can still do football signings with just my agent and then charge maybe a reasonable price that my fans can actually afford versus what you're going to charge, and I don't need you. But give Fanatics credit. They capitalized early on some of these guys, but look at, they knew this was going to happen, and now they're getting all this going public, and the next wave of NIL players aren't going to sign with Fanatics for these kinds of deals, or they will sign a college-only deal with Fanatics.
Yeah.
Right.
What I think is
That's
interesting.
what I see more of happening is the college only deal with Fanatics from here on
Yep.
out. They're going to look at this and say the offer sheet. Wait, 2 years into my NFL career, are you nuts?
Well, and there's a lot with NIL too, where
Trashies.
there's a lot with NIL too, where these companies or these people that are paying them the money, they want 20% of future earnings.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't understand really what that means. What I don't like about NIL is it's kind of like the wild, wild west. There's no regulation on it.
Right.
There's no, you can do this, but you can't do that. You can be approached here, but you can't be approached here. You know, and it's kind of interesting because on the surface, I like the idea of NIL. If you do local businesses and you do a commercial, let's say they do a commercial for Milo's tea, right? And you do a commercial for that, you should be doing that. But what I don't like is when you have recruits that come into these camps or come to want to come to visit this campus and they say, I need $50,000 to step foot on your campus.
Yeah.
Right.
That's out of control.
Well, real quick first, bear down, Matt. Long time no see. I think I just saw you a show ago. Wasn't it on Hallisall? He was watching. He jumped there with me.
Matt Henry watches this show often.
Yeah, he watches the morning shows as well. He's on Ken and Ken. Then he watches you right afterwards.
Right.
NIL is still evolving, you know, and I don't. My son now is getting into college recruitment for track, and he's talking with coaches, and some coaches like I can't talk to you the 15th of June officially. D1 schools, the JUCOs and the D3s and the D2s, they can start talking now. The D1s they can't. That's who's after is D1. But he isn't going. And there's NIL money for track, big NIL money for track. But he's just ending his sophomore year. So, but these kids now are more. In fact, he's hired. My son has hired a company to help him with the recruitment process. Right, and this is more. And it's even a business on this level. So, does my son need NIL money? Well, not if he goes to the school in the state of Florida, he doesn't, because I've got him covered there for my benefits. But if he goes to another state, yeah, you know, he might need some NIL to pay for some of them college bills. So, I mean, but the whole pay me 50 grand to just even consider you, to me, if a recruit ever told me that, if I ever heard my son say that to university, I'd be like, pack your bags, your car is your home.
Yeah, I mean, but these parents are encouraging it because they can capitalize off their kid.
Right, and there's that situation too. And I said long ago, and I think Ken was actually first talking to me then when this whole NIL thing started up, and we were on another podcast where I was a guest. I said the NIL, the NCAA should get in front of it and say, okay, you're only allowed X amount of dollars per month while you're attending college. The rest of it will go into a stipend. No, and the reason why is because if you're on a full ride scholarship, other than dormitory expenses, which is the only thing that's usually not covered in that, you don't have a lot of expenses while in college, is what I'm getting at.
So here's what happens to guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb Williams. They were so rich. And those guys each made north of 25 mil last year. They didn't even attend classes on campus anymore. They couldn't.
Right.
So give them a stipend and once they put the rest in a trust for when they graduate, I think that would make it okay. Hey, Von Doom. Hey, dude. So, hey, you're a good college football player, man. I'm happy on my team. Check this out. You know, you're coming into your junior year. I know you just signed a contract with Nike. However, that $25 million contract you signed for the next 4 years in Nike, yeah, you can only have $1,200 a month of that, and the rest is going to a trust until you become a pro. What's Von Doom going to tell me?
Get fucked.
I'll be, hey, coach. I'll be putting my name in the draft for the NFL.
I'm not saying to have the coaches regulate it. I'm saying the NCAA should have regulated it to begin with. and made it to where it had a set amount, like 5 or 10,000 a month is all they could get.
Well, can
Hey,
we agree though that the NCAA, when they should do things, they're not very good at even regulating themselves, let alone
it's true.
college
If you
athletics?
actually read their pamphlet from when they first came out, it says we are the governing body over the NCAA for students and athletics, and
I
we
think
have
part
our
of the
rules.
problem
But the
is
pamphlet in
this:
there had no list of the rules.
there's nothing really the NCAA can do with NIL anymore. The genie's out of the bottle, cat's out of the bag. You opened up the box, Pandora's out. However, what they should do is educate NCAA athletes, kind of like how the NFL does rookies when it comes to finances and that, and say, look, it with your agents. Your agent needs to be able to do this, tell you this, that, and these are types of deals you don't want to sign. You don't want to sign a deal with Panini where you can only be on their card when you become a pro for the first 3 years, so that's going to hurt you financially in your career after college. The talk about the Fanatics deal, why they shouldn't do deals like that. What they should be doing with their money as college students, how they, hey, you look at you're a college student, the NFL or the NBA is not guaranteed to you. You should be doing these extra type of things with your money. Kind of start educating these players on first off, what to do with the money they're making. B, what these contracts really mean. Because it's not like when you join a professional. Okay, you're Caleb Williams, you're a Bear. If you get a contract with Nike and something's wrong, you have a resource called the Chicago Bears to fight on your behalf, right? The universities and the NCAA needs to do that same thing for the college student and say, look, if this is a predatory contract you're trying to get these college students to sign, and be able to somehow logjam that or stop that. That's what the NCAA's role should be. They can't regulate it. They can't tell kids what they can and can't sign, but they should be teaching these kids more. And on some of these deals, helping the kids get out of them if it's predatory with resources.
What the NCAA could do, though, is put a cap in place for each university for amount that a player in college can make. And here, actually, but that's even bullshit too, because the NCAA. Yeah, your collective bargaining agreement. But too, the NCAA, technically in this situation, every single person who takes an NIL deal should be ineligible to play college football because the NCAA is an amateur league. Once you take a payment, you are a professional, so you lose your eligibility.
Well, here's my thing though. It's not, and this is even coming from me. We don't have a huge NIL collective, but that's taking away from the schools that do have the large collectives and do have the money that they put into the collective. I mean, look at some of these schools. I mean, Ohio State just paid $13 million in NIL to get these kids there. I mean, if you have the resources, why not use them?
But there's another side of this coin, though, too. NIL is not just that booster money that schools are giving these college athletes. NIL is also that Nike deal that he signs to endorse Nike. It's that like my buddy's son. Part of his money doesn't come from the school. None of his NIL came from Michigan. Yours NIL came from TikTok, Instagram, and he had a Subway endorsement and another endorsement. So NIL is not NIL is not just booster money. NIL is any kind of endorsement. Oh yeah, sometimes it's Johnny's Used Cars in Tuscaloosa. Got it. But sometimes it's Gatorade, Nike, Powerade, Under Armour.
Yeah.
Nationally owned companies. So that's like maybe though what Von Doom, where I'd agree more with what Von Doom is saying is this. You put kind of like a salary cap, if you will, on the amount universities are allowed to spend in total per sport. So for football, you can spend $50 million a year in NIL, spend it how you want. For basketball, you get 25. For women's basketball, you get 20, whatever that money is. So like put a salary cap in a way, reverse salary cap or salary cap on what a university can spend in that kind of NIL money where it's, booster money.
So kind of like what they did with the rookie contracts. I believe Stafford was the last one to get the big rookie contract, and then they put a cap on what you can do for rookie contracts.
Well, no, because look, I could still like I could choose to give you if it's all 50 million and not give JB anything. I mean, let the university can decide how they can spend what their annual budget is. So if the school, if you say for a football program, you're allowed to spend 50 million in NIL to pay players to come to your school, spend it however you want. 10 million a piece for 5 players. That's your choice.
Are
Or is
you
it
including incoming freshmen in that too?
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. It's a cap. So it's 50 million or 100 million, whatever that cap is. It's 50 million total. So this year you got 50 million. If the kids don't graduate, if let's say all your kids come back for the next year, you have no new NIL money to give incoming freshmen. Oh well, manage your money.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it seems like each recruiting class just wants more and more and more and more and is demanding more and more and more and more.
Do you know when NIL, I honestly believe, is going to change? When your teams like Texas and Texas A&M say, you know what, screw this, we're going to buy national championships because those two universities have more money than any other schools in the entire country put together.
Can I
They own
address
oil
Matt
fields.
Harvey really quick?
Sure,
Go ahead.
Henry.
So he mentioned how much did Ohio State just spend in NIL to bring in the quarterback and the running back and Caleb Downs. I mean, they spent about $13 million in NIL. Now with Julian saying he left because Saban retired.
Right.
My frustration with Caleb Downs is, if you're going to have to learn a whole new defense anyway, why not just stay at Alabama if it's not about NIL?
Right.
You know?
It was 100% a money move.
No, and I understand that, and I know it is, but if it wasn't just for money, if you were gonna have to learn a new defense and play a new position, why not just stay where you were?
I think bottom line though is we're going to see the NIL go through some changes over the next decade and eventually it'll plateau. But what we're going to see in terms of the NIL, how it affects the NFL, is now we're going to see players coming into the NFL who are a little more mature than they were back 10 years ago because they've dealt with having to deal with that. They've had to grow up because of the money. The money makes you grow up.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be one of two things. You're either going to grow up or you're going to get a bunch of, you're going to go out there, go hookers and blow and basically not get an NFL career. So,
yeah.
Right. And when James Burgess says no expenses in college, weed, underage premium for alcohol, and hookers, and I was like, those are not expenses. Those are not needs.
Those are
Needs,
necessities. What are you talking about?
no, those are
You ever
not
been,
needs.
but look at
you ain't,
think about
you
this.
ain't been a kid in 100 years, man. You don't know.
Think about this. What if they had NIL in the Jamarcus Russell days? He might have never gotten to the NFL draft.
Well, and
He would have been with Rick Ross sooner.
Look at some of these people though. Like imagine what Reggie Bush would have made, or Terrell Pryor. I mean, for God's sake, he went to Auburn, but Bo Jackson. What would Bo Jackson make playing two sports?
Dion.
Standards.
You know what? I want to know what Reggie Bush actually made anyway.
But then also think about guys like Ryan Leaf, right? Like Ryan Leaf didn't make jack in the NFL. NIL, he would have been set for life.
You know what? I may have liked more when the players got paid under the table.
Yes.
The problem was
there was less public greed.
The problem was at that time the only team that was paid in the NCAA was Alabama.
I don't know how the CBA. I want James to answer this question. So you said this a couple times in the comments. He goes, and I know we've mentioned this before, but you said it again. I want to know though, how the hell is the NFL collective bargaining agreement going to change the NCAA's NIL?
Right. I can answer this.
Really
I can answer this. They're going to require the kids to join in on the freaking licensing agreement. Is what they're going to do for the NFL players. Because if these kids all do what Harrison does here and don't sign that, the money that the NFL is getting from Fanatics goes bye-bye.
This is true. But these kids are making more money, making more in college by the time they get to the NFL, they think they're better than the vets. Going to be fight soon, if not already. The SEC
I mean, because it's interesting because like Roma Dunze probably made more as a college football player than he's going to make as a Bear. Now but as a Bear, he's got an actual contract to play, but he's not like NIL. He doesn't have some of the endorsements he got out of NIL, right? But he still has his endorsements, but he lost a couple because they were tied directly to the school. But I mean, but there's some of that still residual. But you're right. There are some guys who made more NIL than they'll ever make in the league because NIL money maybe they made $10 million a year, but now you're a third round pick because at your university you were the big dog on campus, but now you're a third or fifth round pick on a what's the rookie contract for a fifth rounder? Like,
just under $1 million a year to start.
Yeah.
800,000 or something like that.
And a fifth round pick doesn't get a lot of endorsements. So, but you'll keep some of your NIL, but now you're making less as a pro as you did in college.
Exactly.
I mean,
That's why you
if we
stay in
look at
college
it,
for 4 or 5 years, make yourself $100 million, and then say, "Fuck the NFL."
well, look,
Okay.
let's look at this way. If you want to look at the poster child for NIL, look at Livy Dunn.
Oh yeah, the gymnast from LSU, right?
Yeah,
She's
the
the highest
gymnast
paid.
from LSU. And then look at this. Her team wins a national championship, and she does not compete.
Right.
She
She's
doesn't
the
even
highest-
compete because she's not at the talent level to
but
be
her
in that
NIL
rotation.
Her NIL is more because of how she
TikTok
looks
Being hot as hell.
and everything
So,
else.
but that's still part of NIL, though.
Yeah, it is.
I understand. But
she monetized NIL differently than other players. She monetized NIL via TikTok and other things.
TikTok, Instagram,
True.
and the other one, a Snapchat, I believe it is. But anyways, it is getting that
True,
time of night. I
but-
do have to give some homage
But
to
look
my
at her. She's not even competing in the championship. She's not. So her situation would be like the backup quarterback making TikToks and videos and making more because she's not going to compete in the Olympics. She's not going to cash in on doing the Olympics. So you get your backup quarterback that keeps getting beaten out by the new freshman coming in, just making NIL and may not have to work a regular job.
But DJ, I know
value matters.
Yeah, DJ, I know Jeremy wants to move on, but I'll say this: she brings other talent to the university though because of her popularity and the amount of money she makes.
True.
That's basically what it is. She's basically a paid recruiter for LSU gymnastics.
Right.
That's what it's all boiling down to. But that being said, I do have to get to my sponsors. I do have to work tomorrow.
FTP motor oil.
Did the FTP motor oil one, but
I'm making it. Yep.
We do got my paid sponsors I have to give homage to, which is Glossnagron. He is the best window tinter in Saginaw, voted in 2023, and those votes are up. If you're in the Saginaw area, make sure you go to the Chamber of Commerce and vote for him again this year. 409 Hamilton Street, 989-443-9240 is the number to call to set your appointment. He can tint the windows, detail the cars, make your whip look good for summer like this Maserati SUV or this 300 C-Class. Last but not least, the place I work for also sponsors me. It is Brandon's Tire Service at the corner of South Grand Traverse and West Atherton Road, 602 West Atherton Road. If you need a quote for new tires, please call 810-233-8230. Talk to George Red or myself. If you need used tires, just stop on in. They start at $40 a can.
Hey, let me do a PSA. Well, let me do a PSA for Jeremy here. If you call him at work, don't talk to him about the show all day. Just order some tires, then talk to him about the show. I'm sure his boss is going, "Oh, great, Jeremy. Another guy's called to order tires, and it was a 3-hour phone conversation because he want to talk about your podcast."
I've actually had 2 podcasters stop in and get tires now.
Nice.
One doesn't want to be named, but the other one goes by Lion King on YouTube. And he came in and bought a couple tires. The other guy bought a set. I'm very happy with both of them. My buddy Steve Bauer from the chat, hasn't been on as much lately, but he's talking about coming in to buy a set too. And when you buy a set, mention my name. You get $10 off.
Well,
Hey,
He
JD,
doesn't know how much.
also, wait, guys, real quick, because I got to be at work at 4 a.m. I got like an hour of sleep. I'm going to get here. I just want to say this. Anybody out there watching, whether you're a little pizza place, Gatorade, any of these big companies, we are openly accepting NIL deals.
Yes.
Yeah, hey,
Amen.
that's why we started a whole little network. You know, with the network, we're looking for sponsors for the Huddle Streaming Network, which JB's a part of. The shows, individual shows, we're all taking NIL deals. I'm a retired guy, Stephon Doom. I don't know what's this work thing you speak of. I don't understand that. Can you please explain what work is? I don't know what that means.
I work for Pepsi, bro.
No, but what does work mean? I don't get that. Is that, I mean, does that mean you have to be
Worked at
somewhere
one
and
time.
appointed?
You worked
Yes,
at one time.
Yes,
Yes,
it does. But see, I couldn't be retired like that, man. When I was hurting out of work, I was going crazy. Like I legitimately thought a couple times that I should just take a hose from my tailpipe to the car.
I can actually attest to that. He did tell me that a couple times. I can attest to that.
well,
Hey,
I'm Army retired. I don't work, but you see what I do instead. This is what I do. I'm the one that I have a bunch of other friends that are a bunch of knuckleheads. We all love to talk football, and we do this all day. My wife's like, "It's like a job." I'm like, "It's a hobby. This is a hobby." But this is what I don't. You know, I got out of the Army. I stopped working, so I don't know about this being at an appointed place at a point in time thing. I don't know about that.
other than the fact that you know how to show up on your show on time, so it goes on Roku at the right time.
Yeah, so it's on Roku and Fire Stick at the appropriate time. And Von Doom, I don't know if you know this, but you're on Fire Stick today. If you guys don't know how to watch Jeremy on Fire Stick, go to the Huddle Sports Network on Facebook. There's a nice little video you might recognize the voice made for radio, telling you how to download it and install it on there. But it's also on Roku, and you can see Jeremy. Yeah, Von Doom, I was watching on a 70-inch HD TV today, going, "What the hell is this New York guy?"
Hence why my clothes were still on.
I do have a Lions question though.
Absolutely.
So with the signing, with the extension of Goff, does that mean the end of Hendon Hooker?
I doubt it, because if you actually look at the way the contract was structured, and I discussed this with Ken too, that third year with that balloon payment, it saves more money to get rid of him if he hasn't done his goal in the next 2 years here in Detroit. And that also is Hendon Hooker's last year of his rookie deal. So there is an out there.
Yeah.
And from what I heard, Hendon Hooker's looking good so far this preseason. But yeah, like Ken said, everybody looks good in the Pajama Olympics unless your name is JJ.
Well, I was going to say,
conversely,
even
though,
the backup for the Bears. I've heard a lot about this kid too. The backup for the Bears that's been training with Caleb Williams for a while.
So when we say his name on the morning show, you got to do this. It's Secret Bagent, man. There's a joke there. Look at Bagent is the cheap option as backup, a solid backup. I think any team would be happy with Bagent the way he played last year as a backup. Hendon Hooker first does two things for them, unfortunately, for Lions. One, now they're not going to draft the receiver called Blow and have Hooker to blow. That's not going to happen anymore. But I know, right? But their worst case in Detroit's this. Their worst case with Hendon Hooker is, do you do what the Packers did during the Rodgers-Favre years? You do what New England did. You keep him on the bench on a rookie contract for a couple years, and you know what? It looks like Goff is going to stay for 5 more years. Trade him for a third rounder or a second rounder or whatever, or better, and get something out of it. I mean, look at Jimmy G is a great example. He was drafted late to be the backup for Brady. He plays a couple games for Brady, and then they sold him for a high draft pick, right? And then he goes on to make tons of money in the league. So Hooker could be the same thing. That's the worst case for Detroit.
Goff hasn't had the one thing that almost every quarterback younger than him has already had in their career, is that major multi-game injury. It is a very good thing to have a guy that was so highly touted coming out of college as a backup in case of said injury happening. And I'm not saying it will happen, because Goff has been like an Iron Man, really. He only missed half a game for a broken thumb in LA.
And when you look at the Bears with Bagent, I mean, look at Badgett showed last year in what the 4 or so games he played. He's got
5
poise.
games, 4-1.
Yeah, 4-1. He's a solid backup. And you know what? I don't think after a 6 game the success would have been there as much because now there's tape, people practice and schemed on you. But look at he's what you want as a backup. He's what you want. And the Bears got him as an undrafted free agent rookie, signed him to a cheap multi-year deal, and they'll keep signing him to that deal because he loves to be in Chicago. He knows he's going to make decent money, and the fans love him, and he's going to sell jerseys. But he's not a starter. I think he could become a starter though. Looking at James's comment up there, Bagent could be a starter in this league in about 2 years because he's got some training to do. But you could see everything there. So he's also for the Bears. If Caleb shits the bed and is another Jamarcus Russell 2.0, as John Dorn likes to say he is, they've got Bagent will have been there for 2 years and they will have groomed him, and he'll be better than what Purdy's been for the 49ers.
Is there any
we don't condone grooming here on this show, sir.
Tannehill?
All right.
What now?
Is there any truth to the rumor about them bringing in Tannehill?
Who, the Bears? No, because we signed
Yeah.
Ripken. No, so everyone's like, why'd you sign Ripken? Well, we signed Ripken to be basically the guy we're going to cut every week and then re-sign every week to be the third quarterback. So he's a new one of that. He is there to mentor Badgett and Caleb. That's his job.
But you don't have to do that anymore because the third quarterback doesn't count towards the 53.
Right. But he's there to mentor. He's there to mentor.
Here's
Okay, back to this topic real quick, JB. We got something real quick. It's a good one because then I got to go. The reason that they're keeping Hooker in Detroit, his entire contract, because you got a Hooker on the team. They ain't got to worry about it. Instagram model's going to pregnant.
All right. The other thing I was going to say, that I just thought about that. The Bears only won 7 games last year, which means Justin Fields only won 3 of them.
Yeah.
That might be a good reason why he was traded.
I mean, well, you look at Justin Fields, though. As a GM or a coach, you look at Justin's career. He did everything you want a quarterback to do. Every year, he got statistically better. He grew and got better every year. I was a little surprised. I was on that side of the team, Bears fans base that said keep him because I saw that, and I saw that 60% of his pockets were dirty. I saw that, yes, he holds the ball too long, but every time he did, it generated a net positive play for the Bears. So, look, he's had a great career in Pittsburgh, and kudos to Poles for sending Justin where he wanted to go and doing right by Justin. But to me, though, it says this, though, like I said on the Bears show an hour or so ago, Poles got traded Fields because he believes Caleb is better now than Fields is now, and he has a higher ceiling than Fields. That's the only reason you make that trade and you draft Caleb, because this team with Fields probably could win 10 games. You have to win at least 10 games with Caleb to make that trade worth it. He has to be as good or better and have a higher ceiling than Fields to make that deal worth it for Chicago.
And I don't think it's going to be that high, though. I just don't.
I said on the Bears show, I said on the Bears show, I know you missed it because you were preparing for this one, but I went through the Bears schedule. The Bears have 17 winnable games on their schedule. The Detroit Lions have 17 winnable games on their schedule. So does Green Bay. So do the Vikings. Every team in the NFC North has 17 winnable games in the season. Now, Von Doom, if I go to you and say, do the Giants have 17 winnable games that you could look at the schedule and objectively said, yeah, the Giants could win that game. How many winnable games do you think they have? You say 4. DG, what's your team again?
I'm a Redskins Commanders fan.
Okay, so the Commanders. You look at that Commanders schedule, and you just say, "Now I'm going to win or I'm going to lose." How many of your 17 games do you think are winnable for the Commanders?
It's pretty brutal.
So
4 or 5.
So, but I look at the North. All 4 North teams have 17 winnable games. It's going to come down to a play, an injury, a drop ball, a referee call. My only cutout from that is with Minnesota, and that is if Darnold can just be a manager, not be all crazy, stupid Darnold, and just have his inner neck beard Kyle Orton come out and manage with the weapons he's got and that defense, they can win 10 games. They could win all 17 games. They could very easily be competitive, and all 17 of their games are winnable. So when I look at that with Caleb, That gave me the next question. Okay, if Caleb is at the level or exceeds the level of the hype coming into this season, where does that put the Bears? Well, it puts the NFC North in a shitload of hurt is what it does if he's above the expectations of everyone. If he's at or just below, right, and just has a regular kind of rookie season, they should win about 10 games.
I
That's
said
assuming Jefferson plays.
no.
That's the other caveat for Minnesota. Yeah, but he'll play.
He'll play because he won't sit out a year.
He doesn't want to lose $20 million plus fines.
Well, true. He did.
And
I did see a rumor that he wouldn't play under an expiring contract, but
That's stupid because he's going to lose $20 million and then he's going to get fined. So that $20 million is going to be like 25 to 30 million. And then when he gets to 40 million, he's got to pay himself back the 20 to 30 million he just lost. Look, I think the Bears, or I think the last year they reset the running back market. Look what they did to Saquon. 2 years prior, if that was Saquon, it would have been a $25 million a year contract. The GM said, forget that. We're going to give you 10 million because we're going to tag you. And they did that to Jacobs, they did it to Saquon. Guess what? I think that's what they're going to do to wide receivers this year. Because here's the problem. JJ gets 40, but now my JJ in Chicago, who we gave 22 this year, stops him cold. Well, I'm a $20 million man stopping a $40 million man. I need 40 million too.
yeah.
Right? The NFL has got to get control because if they don't get control of the wide receiver market, the next is going to be your DBs, safeties. That market's going to go nuts. The quarterback was fucked because the day you made the quarterbacks the face of the franchise and they're the everything on every team, that market you can't reset. Running back receivers
getting paid too.
Yeah.
Huh?
So I don't. They're gonna. But look, I mean, a tag for Jefferson next year is going to be close to 30 million.
Yeah.
I was explaining that. You remember because then that's
this
all
morning.
because of that Devontae Adams and his balloon payment
I
next
think they're
year.
gonna. I think he's going to get a new contract, and that number's going to go down from 45. I think
More
he'll be in the 30.
But I'm just
30.
saying, if he doesn't want to be there, he doesn't have to take the new contract.
He wants to be there. I mean, Dorn's been giving Joe crap every morning about it every day. Here's another clip of Devontae saying how he wants to stay with Vegas. I think Vegas extends him for 3 or 4 years and takes that 45 balloon down to like 30, 32. And I think the average of the top five will probably be right around 28 to 30, somewhere in there. And then that's what they're going to do. They're going to tag CeeDee Lamb is going to get tagged. JJ is going to get tagged. They're going to now T. Higgins is on the tag this year. If they tag him next year, it's 125%. So he'd be getting even. So they may do the other tag on him, the lesser tag. But all these fifth-year option guys, wide receivers that we're talking about need contracts right now, dude, they can tag them and they'll be willing to pay those guys 30, but they don't want to pay them 40. So they're going to try to they have to reset the wide receiver market before it gets out of control.
CeeDee Lamb
like
will
you
reset
said,
the
it's gonna
market.
CeeDee Lamb will reset the market.
He will reset the market. If they tag him and try to play that game, watch them lose Micah Parsons, who is more important to that team, because they will not have the ability to do it.
I mean, but look, here's the thing though. If I tag, let's say I tag you, right, and I put you on the non-exclusive, I'll let someone reset the market with you and give me 2 first-round picks to do it.
Well, and like you said,
do.
if it goes to the corners, you have guys like Sauce Gardner, Pat Surtain. You know, that's going to get out of control because and I'm here to say that I think that both of those guys should get paid because they're very good at what they do, but I don't think that they should be getting top wide receiver money.
Look at the edge. The edge guys. Then the edge guys.
Yeah.
But you want JJ to get paid more than a lot of quarterbacks in the league are getting paid? I mean, as a wide receiver? Like, so what do you have to pay? Well, think about it. What do you got to pay his quarterback then? If you're paying the wide receiver $40 million a year, you got to pay the guy getting the ball 50 or 60.
Yeah.
Well, depending on what your offensive line and your weapons there are, just keep letting the quarterback walk and getting a good rookie.
Kirk Cousins, everybody. Kirk Cousins.
You know what's crazy, brother? It's crazy that you say that. Guess what the tag amount for an offensive lineman last year was on the exclusive tag?
I don't know.
20 million.
Mm-hmm.
Look, here, I got one for you. Antoine Winfield Jr. just signed a new contract as a safety for the Buccaneers. 4 years, $84.5 million.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it goes by AVR. It doesn't go by the cap hit that everybody thinks too. So Devontae, when he signed that deal, it was a $35 million a year deal, is what that breaks down to. That's how I came up with that 32.5.
Oh, fuck me.
Remember?
It's 11 o'clock already?
Yeah, it is. We've been talking for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, it's been my pleasure being here with you guys. I enjoyed it all. I got to run.
Get you
Okay.
some sleep. Go to work.
Yep. And
All
I
right,
got
guys, have a good night, guys.
Good
I
to see you,
haven't
Bandu.
but
I
want to
my
say to
dinner
all fans,
my dinner arrived right at the beginning of House Hall. It's been sitting in front of me the whole time.
I want to say, like I do to close every show, try every day to be a better person than you were the day before. It's the only way to make the world a better place. It starts right here. Much love to everybody in the chat. Much love to my guest tonight. I had Jordan, I had Dustin, and I had Ken coming in. And we did we have another one too? No, that was it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
to all
Matt,
you
for going from show to show.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. And as always, I'll always say roll tide.
Hey, pretty soon you'll be saying roll pride because you'll become a Detroit Lions fan with all the Alabama players.
Hey, there's a lot on there. There's a lot on there.
JB.
And they keep doing well. So it's a good pipeline going.
Hey, if you guys change it to roll pride, those team colors are going to change to a certain flag. Just saying.
Hey, I'll say this too. I don't know how well that would go down in Alabama. So
No.
Or is it one
I live pretty close. I'm in Pensacola, and trust me, they wouldn't be playing that stuff down here. No.
Yeah.
It was a joke.
Yeah.
We're schools to grab from them, Bama. This is true. The only thing I said I question about Caleb Williams' game is how he played in against the top defenses in the Pac-12, because the top defenses in the Pac-12 are the bottom defenses in the NFL.
I think that the problem with Caleb was his last year in college was, dude, his best wide receiver didn't go to the 5th or 6th round. Caleb Williams has never had an offense, a wide receiving room like this. He's never had a running back room like this. He's never had a tight end room like this, let alone have an all team. Like, yeah, he may have had a good receiver his Heisman year, but he didn't have 3 stud receivers, 2 stud tight ends, 3 stud running backs, and a better offense, a pretty good offensive line. Because the Bears' offensive line outside the center position last year were all ranked pretty good. Now they fixed the center position, we hope. Well, PFF grades from last year would make us assume we do. He's never had a team with that much talent on it. So that's the problem with it. When we look at their college game and we look at the pro, look how much more talent he has around him now than he did before.
I know.
I would argue that he didn't even get to use his best weapon in that USC offense, Zachariah Branch. I mean, they used him primarily in kick return.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting, JB. We're going to have a fun season.
It is going to be a fun season.
Yep. Bear down, everyone. Have a great night.
Roll Tide.
Roll.